Hi, this is on Imagination with the Healing Garden, and welcome to Shifting Perspectives. So, Eureka! I am just like exploding right now. I started to decompress, smoked some weed, went in, decided I'm going to take a bath. And then I just had this moment of comprehension. And I went, oh, son of a bitch. So, oh my God, this is huge. I am a theoretical learner, which means if I want to do anything, I have to understand it. I can't live unless I understand it. I can't have fun unless I understand it. I have to do everything with purpose because I have to understand it because I am a ninth perspective. Now, here's the thing. If you have this problem too, if you are like me, where you just can't do something unless you understand it, really, then you are really going to have a hard time with everything. And it's, you have, I get to do this, perspective. The first word that came to mind was constipation. So I'm going to write it down, but that is not the word we are going to be officially using for this. You have perspective constipation. Working title. Perspective constipation is when you literally put your life on hold until you can understand it. So you will just sit there and go, what does it mean? Because understanding is your obsession. I'm that way. I have perspective constipation. I have a hunch that there's a lot of people out there with this condition. There's nothing wrong with perspective constipation. It's not a condition. It's not a behavioral defense. It is who you are. It is 100% your personality type. As I said, this is a working title. I imagine we're going to have perspective diarrhea. Yes, that would be the opposite, right? And what that means is, I have to explain what diarrhea means on YouTube. Okay, all right, I'm gonna get my shit together. Yeah, I'm gonna own it. Okay, here I go. This is a highlight. This is a milestone for the time I get to use my podcast to define diarrhea live on YouTube. All right, so here's how it goes. There are people who, when they are confronted with a choice, they are thinkers or jumpers. Okay? You are either a thinker or you are a jumper. Now, I'm going to go total nerd on you for this. Because in the nerd community, we know one very, very, very well-renowned jumper. I need to get my shit together here. Give me a second. As soon as I said a perspective jumper, one name came to mind, and I just went, Leroy Jenkins. And I'm like, yeah, that would be a perspective jumper. So I'm going to explain to you the Leroy Jenkins perspective. If you are not a gamer, if you do not know WoW, World of Warcraft, you probably have not heard of Leroy Jenkins. It was back in the 80s, 90s, and we were all playing WoW because, oh yeah, no, it wasn't 90s, guys. I got to think here. Dudes, when did the game come out? 2000s? Yeah, 2011 I was playing it. Yeah, I almost lost my job because of WoW. WoW is not allowed in my house because I have a problem. I have a big problem. Yeah. I could easily be one of those gamers who sits on a podcast and all I do all day is play WoW. I got to bring this back in. Okay, focus. So, Leroy Jenkins. In the world of gaming RPGs, you basically have to work together as a team. And you basically get a party together. And then you go on these massive raids. A raid is when you go into a dungeon and you kill all the baddies in there and then you split the treasure. And you get experience, you get the benefits of working with the other people, you get perks for that, and you get the treasure. There's a lot of incentive for a gamer to want to do a raid. Ideally, the people you have in your group, you really want them to fit certain characteristics. And you also want to make sure that you have a balanced team. So common in D&D also. So what you end up having is you want a healer, you want a paladin, you want a range, you want someone who can do long range, you want someone who can do short range, you want a berserker, you also want the bowman in the back. You want the healer and the priest all sitting there doing their thing, and you want the bard to inspire and motivate everybody to get the job done. You get all of that together. Oh yeah, you should see me DM. You should see me DM. And you go in and you do your raid. And you kill all the baddies, you work as a team. You usually have a game plan. You're going to take these guys, you guys can take this, you guys pair up over here, you guys work great together. So there's a strategy. And usually the guild leader is the one who sits down and builds the strategy. There's a group leader in charge of the shindig. And it's called playing style. So in this one particular raid, in this one particular game, on this one particular day, they're in one of the largest raids known to WoW. Huge. It is so huge that they have like 12 people in their party. Usually a party has 5 people. For perspective. Perspective, look at that. Comparison is perspective. Oh, look at that, guys. Comparison is perspective. You want the rules of comparison? So in comparison, you have 5 people in that party, but in this particular one, there were 12. So the group leader was sitting there breaking it all down for everyone, telling them, okay, this is where you're going to go. This is what you're going to do. And in the middle of them going over the strategy, Leroy Jenkins, this one character says, yeah, screw all that. Here I go, Leroy Jenkins. And he runs into the raid ahead. He's dead within a few seconds, and it completely wipes out the party. They lose the treasure. The whole thing is done. It was a total bomb fuck. It was foobard. And the group is just like, are you kidding me? Did that just? It went viral. It went viral. Among gamers, it was like, oh my God, because we can appreciate the weight of what Leroy Jenkins did. So that is what we call a perspective jumper. Somebody who is more emotionally eager than holding things in perspective. It's when your eagerness, it's when your identity runs away with your subconscious mind. Frontal cortex. The subconscious mind is the frontal cortex. And the identity is the solar plexus. Heart chakra. The identity is the heart chakra. The intuition is the solar plexus, and the frontal cortex is the subconscious mind. This is my thesis. Okay. The identity is the heart chakra, the solar plexus is the intuition, and the subconscious mind is the frontal cortex. The frontal cortex is absolutely in charge of the logic and the perspective. But the identity and the intuition are in charge of feeling. The story was told wrong. Epimetheus was the subconscious mind. Prometheus was identity. Ego were the gods. Epimetheus, Prometheus. Pandora's box is fear. Who was Pandora? The fire is conscious awareness. So when Prometheus stole fire from the gods, identity was stealing conscious awareness from the gods. Identity needed to be taught a lesson. Vengeance? Did ego avenge Prometheus? Did ego avenge identity? So they gave them the gods gave them. Why do I see an apple in a garden? I see an apple in a garden. There's a code here. If Epimetheus is the subconscious mind, Epimetheus was the subconscious mind. But Prometheus was identity. Ego is the gods, conscious awareness is the fire. Prometheus steals conscious awareness from the gods, not retaliation, not jealousy. Oh, I had it last night when I was falling asleep. Jealousy is not fear. We have jealousy wrong. What is jealousy? wishing, dreaming, wanting, not saying, jealousy comes from intuition and identity, which means when the gods ego, narcissism, ego isn't narcissistic. Oh, yes, it is. According to the original Greek gods, it is. According to the original Greek, narcissist was a man who fell in love with his own reflection. And he was so busy being self-absorbed that it killed him. But the condition narcissism actually is void, completely absent of self-love. According to the original Greek, narcissist actually loved himself, hence the ego. But narcissism as we know it is actually an absolute lack of self-love. It's actually a misnomer. It never should have been called narcissism to begin with, because true narcissism is true self-love. We never should have called it narcissism. Narcissism is actually a very beautiful thing, originally, when it was with the Greeks. So the question is, did the gods give Pandora out of jealousy, vengeance, or was it a gift? Sounds like a Trojan horse that they had included in there. A Pandora's box, curiosity. They used curiosity against her. They wanted her to open the box. It's the same story, just told differently. Adam and Eve and Pandora, Prometheus, Epimetheus, it's the exact same story. But who is Pandora? Pandora is wishes and dreams. Pandora is intuition. Okay. Now, go back over the story, but with all the players plugged in differently. Epimetheus, according to the original Greek, Epimetheus and Prometheus were brothers. They were the first men. Prometheus desired fire. He desired to be like the gods, just like Eve. Well, they removed that part of the story. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, according to this one, Prometheus wanted to be like the gods, so he stole fire from the gods. No, so did Eve. Eve wanted to be like the gods. That's why she ate the apple. So Prometheus stole fire from the gods. And in vengeance, according to myth, the gods gave Pandora to Epimetheus. And Epimetheus, whose name actually means hindsight or foresight, because he's a thinker, said no and saw what was going to come. So he gave Pandora to his brother Prometheus. Prometheus accepted Pandora as wife because, well, his name means hindsight. And the gods gave Pandora a box and told her, do not look inside of it, do not open it. A lot like an apple placed in a garden saying, do not eat of that fruit, or you will be like the gods. Well, Pandora's left alone for maybe a day, and because she has curiosity, which is a huge part of that story, she opens up the box, and all the horrible feelings in the world escape. She quickly closes the box, but not soon enough. After she closes the box, there is only one good emotion left in the box: hope. All the other bad emotions inside that box escaped and turned into bad emotions. And only hope was left. Now, changing the players around. The subconscious mind and identity are siblings. And at some point, identity gained conscious awareness. This is where the Big Bang comes from. This is the Big Bang. Identity gains conscious awareness. And When she gains conscious awareness, she gains intuition. Intuition is our conscious awareness. Which means we are able to venture forth, which is also a metaphor for Adam and Eve leaving the garden. They venture forth. Intuition ventures forth with growth. But that's where the fear is. Intuition is conscious awareness, which is why it talks to some of us. Because intuition has conscious awareness. I was talking to somebody about this yesterday, and I was explaining to them how sometimes my intuition will say things to me. Just one or two words, maybe three. And she said, I get the same thing. And I did a whole, let's compare perspectives. Let's compare these things. Let's figure out where we're the same. Let's figure out how we're different. But let's talk about what's important. And what's important isn't our skin. It isn't our gender. It isn't our race or our age or our education level. What matters is our perspective. So let's start comparing those, because that's where we're going to start seeing eye to eye. But we're not. We're comparing successes and failures. We're comparing whose wife is prettier. We're comparing whose house is bigger, whose car is bigger. We're comparing everything except the one thing we should be talking about, which is comparing our perspectives. Because that is when we're going to find community. That is when we're going to come together. That is when we're going to realize we're not fucking crazy. We were just in the wrong perspective. That's what's wrong with us. Absolutely nothing. Nothing is wrong with anybody. Nothing is wrong. You're just in the wrong perspective. Get to your right perspective. You know, I bet you when we come together into the right perspective, our behavioral differences are going to vanish. And do you know why? Because we're understood. That's what trauma is. Trauma is just not understanding what happened to you. It's just lacking closure. That's all trauma is. You lack closure. So you're seeking closure. So your subconscious mind is on constant replay. You're ruminating, you're obsessing, you're talking about it. You can't stop talking about it. You're venting about it. You're frustrated. You're breaking down. You're saying everything you could possibly say except what you really need to say. I don't understand what happened to me. I'll tell you what happened to you. You were standing in the wrong perspective. Not because you wanted to, they kept you there. So nothing's wrong with you. You just outgrew them and they won't let you leave because they're hoarders. Literally, that's it. Because they have scarcity mindset. So they hoard. Because they have scarcity mindset. So they hoard. So because they have scarcity mindset. Manifestation. But you're ready to go on to your own perspective. But they won't let you. Your parents tell you you have to be a certain religion. Your partner tells you you have to be a certain type. Everyone's got to be something that they're not. Yeah. Perspective. So compare perspectives. So perspective diarrhea is when your intuition and identity are ahead of your subconscious mind. Perspective constipation, which is what most of us have, I think, is when your identity and your intuition refuses to go ahead until and unless it can understand. This is basically what you prioritize. Do you prioritize the adventure, or do you prioritize understanding? Oh, I see. Now, this is a spectrum. It's always a spectrum. You can do both. You can absolutely have understanding over here and you refuse to budge because you don't have adventure. You can toggle, you can jump. Adventure. I need to understand this. Adventures. This is me, by the way. Adventure. I need to understand adventure. And then there's people who are like that. And then there's people who are just like, no, there's no fun until I understand. And then there's people like Leroy Jenkins who doesn't need to understand. They just need to go for the adventure. So where are you on this spectrum? Are you a little bit of both? Do you jump back and forth? Do you try and have it all? Are you all the way over here with you need to understand what's going on? The thing is, we all need to understand what's going on. More specifically, people who are in the first through fourth perspectives, no, this is a character trait. This is absolutely a character trait. The more I break this down, the more it's a character trait. Like whether or not a person's an avoider or a doer. I'm a doer. There are people. Oh, I love doing reverse psychology. It's not until I get it done that I go, oh, I know what I did. So these are avoiders and these are the doers. If you have an avoidant, it's because if you are an avoidant behavior, if you are somebody who avoids and you suffer from severe anxiety, it means that you have to understand before you can do, and you will not budge. You will have to understand it. But if your mind is stuck in confusion, and it's on a confusion loop, which is why you have anxiety, is because it's stuck in the confusion loop. You stall out and you get stuck. And you can't go forward, and you won't go forward. You can't go forward because you don't understand, and you won't go forward because you have to understand first. That is an avoider. Nothing wrong with that. It's just how you're made up. Now, I'm a doer, which is why I don't understand the avoiders. Oh, good God, do I not understand this? I'm huge on you knock down the door, you grab a sword, and you just Oh, because I'm a protector. Oh, that makes sense. It's because I'm a protector. I get it now. All right. But if you're a nurturer, you're probably an avoider. And guess what? My daughter and my partner are both nurturers, which means they are both avoiders. They are both high functioning subconscious mind. I don't function with my subconscious mind. I threw that thing out a long time ago, which is why it did not take hold. Which is why I found a way to get around my subconscious mind by using my identity. Oh, yes. So as a result, I am a protector and a doer. I don't understand people who, if you see a problem, you leap and you dive. And I would be Leroy Jenkins. Yeah, I'm Leroy Jenkins. Yes. Yeah. I live for today, die now. That's my mentality. Very much so. So you have your identity, you have your intuition, and the people who run off of those are very much your protectors and your doers. Perspective constipation. Okay, this is going to be the fun part. Oh, this is going to burn so bad. All right, so the perspective constipation applies to the avoiders and the nurturers in the world. However, it's the perspective diarrhea that is the doers in the world. Oh, yes. Yes, that's nice. I'm so glad I did this for an analogy. All right, so I understand now. I understand now. All right. So, perspectives. Once you start getting to the habit of seeing the perspectives, realizing whose perspective you're talking to, this is the juice. This is what I've been trying to get to you guys. But I'm a theoretical learner. I couldn't explain this without understanding it. And now I understand it. So here's what I see. Take my knowledge, take my information, take my podcast, take all of it. Learn the language, learn the perspectives, so that when you are sitting at a kitchen table and you see your third perspective father starting to scream and get violent, you know, oh, he's in third perspective, which means he's not going to be reasonable. He has not yet learned how to prioritize people above his own needs. I understand now. And when your mother sits there and says, you just need to go to church more, I don't understand, you know that it's because she is a second perspective who has not yet learned that she or her or him or them or they or it is more important than their religion. It's just not where she is. It's just not where any of them are. Now, you may have already learned that, but it doesn't matter your race, your age, your gender, your group, nothing. I was 4 and well past. I was 4 and well past stage 6. Age does not matter here. As soon as you learn the lesson, you learn the lesson. And we all learn at different paces. This is the stages of growth. These are literally just how slow or how fast you learn. And how slow or how fast you learn is completely contingent upon, well, your perspective constipation. That's it. Or your perspective diarrhea. I probably have one of the highest diarrhea rates in the world, which is why I'm here first, almost first, is because you have to be so aggressively a doer. I am literally the extreme. I'm all the way over here. But I'm a theoretical learner. I had to understand why, but it wasn't my priority. Living and adventuring was my priority, and I had to understand why. But I didn't hold that back. And that's just it. When your intuition comes to call, do you have to stop and analyze your intuition, or do you follow? I'm a follower. I am 100% my intuition's little bitch. 100%. I will admit it. So that's really, really the question is, where are you as far as your intuition goes? Do you listen to that, or do you listen to this? And that's really it right there. So when you're sitting at home and you're talking to your partner and you realize you've had a perspective shift, you can say, we are not on the same perspective anymore. We need to talk about our feelings now. And you take the feelings you have and you talk about, I feel hurt this way. This is my pain. This is my sadness. Talk about your feelings. Reconnect in the feelings. That's where your intuition is. Reconnect on your intuition. And then you can go back to being subconscious. But you really need to connect in the feelings. That's where we all connect, is the feelings. And when you lose a perspective, when you lose a connection with perspective, you need to reconnect on the feelings. And that's it. That's it. That's relationship in a nutshell. Connect on the intuition, and then this will follow. Connect on intuition, and your perspective will follow. And when you don't understand your teenager, when you don't understand your daughter or your son, you can acknowledge that they are just in a different perspective than you. And they have different lessons that they are trying to learn. And guess what? You have your own. And when your child says to you, that's perspective abuse. You are not respecting my perspective. Now, 3s and 4s are going to say, well, you're not respecting my perspective. 2s never say that. 2s will not say those words. I wanted to sit down and just show you how you can do this with your life, but I had to understand it first. So I literally turned my podcast into my theoretical research, where I just did exploratory dialogues the whole time. and I talked about it, and I analyzed it. And yesterday I threw out my psych books. I went, these are officially obsolete. And I felt my research end. I felt this chapter of my life close. I just put the book down and I went, well, I understand psychology now. Level complete. I wonder what other games I've got. Physics is next. Physics is next. Physics. And that's philosophy. And I see it now. Philosophy and psychology are not different. Psychology is not a subcategory of philosophy. Philosophy is psychology. Philosophy is psychology. Oh, yes. Why did we not see this sooner? Philosophy is psychology. Sociology is the expanse of studying who we are, why we are here, where we are going, and what we are doing. I don't know what I am, and I know exactly what I am. Oh, I know exactly what I am, but there are no words to explain what I am. I might have the words now. I am a storyteller. There, those are my words. That's my name. I am a storyteller. Yes, I write these down because I'm afraid I will forget them. And when you find your name, you write it down. That is my name. I am a storyteller. So I don't want to come here and discuss and debate philosophy because I'm a storyteller. And I don't want to lecture or teach classes because I'm a storyteller. And story, not classes. Story is how we learn. So I am going to tell you story. No, I will not be doing any classes. They are stories. I am going to have story time. We used to do this. We used to sit around a fire pit and tell story. And we stopped. Why do you think we stopped? Why do you think we did it to begin with? Why do you think we did it to begin with? Imagine us all sitting around a fireplace, all of us talking, sharing stories, our perspectives. And we would be able to enjoy and listen to every perspective. And we would be able to revel in the differences at a time that we have oral traditions. We would have mastered communication. So we would have just sat around telling story to each other all the time. Which is why to this day, when we see a fire pit, compliments of Prometheus, we sit down around the fire and we talk. And we don't know why we do it. We don't know when we did it. The title of the story is not Pandora's Box. It's the story of perspective. It's the story of how perspective came into existence. It's the story of perspective. The story of Adam and Eve is the story of how all the different perspectives came into existence. The story of the Tower of Babel is a story about how we all started to talk differently and the perspectives came down upon us. And suddenly we couldn't understand each other. Not because we were speaking different languages, but because we were starting to speak different perspectives. Prior to the Tower of Babel, prior to the flood, there was only one perspective. And then there were 8. The 12 tribes of Israel. 12 different perspectives. There are 12 different perspectives. 12 disciples with 12 different perspectives. He needed one from each perspective because he could remember them. I can't either. It's taken me a lot of work to remember the other perspectives. Every time you see the number 12 coming up in all of history, it's referring to the 12 perspectives. All of the stories are the story of perspective. The story of perspective. That's the title of life. That is the same story that we're just telling over and over again. We're trying to tell the story of perspective because the story of perspective is our coordinates. Who are we? Perspective is who we are. Where are we going? Perspective. What are we doing here? Perspective. Every creation story isn't about God, it's about perspectives and how all of the different perspectives came into existence. But seconds can't see past the religion. And thirds can't see past their pride. And their prejudice. And fourths don't believe they can self-govern. And fifths struggle with accepting the accountability of it. And the sixths, they struggle aligning to it. At 7, you know what tools you need to start making it happen. You have to value and need communication. And at 8, we value the balance of self-preservation and the preservation of others. Authenticity is the path of perspective. I felt that ripple through the universe when I said it. Authenticity is the path to perspective. It is a collection of all the perspectives. Authenticity is the path to perspective. Manifestation is the consequence of internalizing authenticity and all the perspectives. So it's a good thing I'm a storyteller, because I have the story of perspective to tell. Authenticity is the path to perspective. So that is the answer I was looking for. Perspective. Wait for it. Perspective, not 42, is the answer. Yeah. All right. So this is the fun part. That's my thesis. One day I will sit down and actually write it out, but for now I'm just going to keep it there. I don't want to write a thesis. It's boring. They're dry. All I want to do now is celebrate life. Really, it's all I want to do. I feel like I have full comprehension, and I'm just like, all right, comprehension is complete. I can now go play. I'm ready to go play because I'm a Taurus and we celebrate life. All right. Well, if you loved shit like this, go ahead and subscribe, like, and comment below. And if you want to learn more about me, go ahead and click on Linktree below and take a look at the Healing Gardens annual healing convention that I am hosting next year, May of 2024, for Mental Health Awareness Month. Oh yeah. Take a look down below. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.